Unanswered questions, AFC South edition. Let's check out the odds over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Shall we? Defending champion Texans. Okay, faves at plus 105. Okay, not as overwhelming a favorite as I feel like I would have expected. They're followed by the Jags at plus 270, Colts at plus 330, Titans plus 800. We're going to start with the Texans. Insider, reporter extraordinaire James Palmer joining us with some insights on this team. But if I was to boil it down to one question that permeates my air when it comes to this Houston squad is, you had a flashy offseason. Is that going to translate from paper to on the field to vault them into contention in the AFC? They are contenders. Those odds are sort of funky, aren't they? When you're a young team coming off a breakout season like the Texans, there is a perception that they're automatically going to make the leap next year. And it might work that way in Madden, but we've seen it doesn't always go like that in the NFL. And that's why I kind of love how aggressive Nick Caserio and company have stayed this offseason. So if you take a look, there was no, let's wait for things to develop. Let's just see how this goes. We did so well. We overachieved. So let's keep that vibe going. No, Nick got busy. He made deals to bring in proven stars, Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, Danielle Hunter in the building. You heard Jared Allen just talking about him, waxing poetic on him yesterday. I think all of these moves, will take this team to another level. How big of a question is it? Not that big. There's a lot of positivity, a lot of steam around this team, and they've earned it. They were 10-7 last year with the third weakest schedule in the NFL. Now things have flipped. Of course, they become hunted. They get a tougher schedule. Mike North, Charlotte Carey gave them the fourth hardest schedule. Half of their games coming against playoff teams. 3 of the 4 teams played in conference championship last year. So if you look at the schedule, it's crazy. 3 of 4 in conference championships is nuts. It was critical to make the additions they did. They support CJ Stroud, Diggs, Nico Collins. He just got an extension yesterday. You love to see it. Schultz, Mixon. There isn't any, you look at some of these contending teams and there's these contract things lingering, or the T's and the Justins and what, like, they don't have that here. It's very nice. And they're getting guys back like Tank Dell, who was looking like the steal of the draft, hat tip to Caserio in 2023 before his injury. So D'Amico clearly likes what they've done too. Here's what he had to say about his 1-2-3 trio of wide receivers.
When you talk about receivers with multiple skill sets, that's what you want. You want different body types, different type of movers, right, to cause as many problems for a defense as possible, right? We want to put defenses in binds. I think with those 3 guys, it allows us to do that because they're so different, right, and they can all do different things. But at the end of the day, they are all explosive finishers with the football, right? And that's what makes those guys great players. They can win on third down, and they can finish and get in the end zone. And that's what we look for at all skill positions on offense. So having 3 receivers there, it definitely opens up the playbook for us, and it puts a lot of stress on the defense.
Okay, so the bar raised in Houston, trip to New Orleans. Sounds like it's the goal here, and why not? If this new talent can live up to expectations, I think it is a reality and is certainly a possibility for the group. So a question for them, but not a huge question. I think they're going to be A-okay and really fun to watch. Let's move on to the Jags here. Unanswered questions around the AFC South. We've got James Palmer. We've got Rodney McLeod on the program. We have seen Houston load up around Stroud. Okay, we've seen that. So when you look at the Jags side of things and you think of a question, it's got to be, why didn't you do that? Have you done enough to support Trevor Lawrence? Like, is he living as well and is sleeping as well as CJ Stroud and his division rival here? Doug Peterson actually met with the media yesterday. He talked about his quarterback. He talked about his evolution mentally, his growth in that area, and why he is calling a big 2024.
I learned this back when I went to Green Bay as a player under Mike Holmgren. He always taught us, that it takes 3 to 4 years. It takes that time to develop into the quarterback that you want to become. For Trevor, he's now into that 3rd year with us, and so that part, I think for us, that's the encouraging part as an offensive staff, especially myself, just now going into that 3rd year, and this is kind of that jump year that he can have, moving forward.
jump here he could have. I would love to see it. And I believe him. I don't know why he would say that if that wasn't true. It's putting pressure on your quarterback, who, if you really think about why it didn't work out, and by the way, he didn't have Christian Kirk for the last 5 games. That didn't help either. But Trevor Lawrence has dealt with these injuries, the knee, the ankle, the shoulder, the head. Like, he's a game of operation. Like, it's not great. He went through a lot. It is how he plays. So is it almost to be expected that he might miss some time? That's a valid concern, I guess. But it's really about, how do we put him in the best position? How do we protect him? And, Jags fans love just turning the heat up on Balky. They just love going after Trent. And they did, and the coaching staff, to say, give him more support. And then they get, I don't know, they got outbid for Calvin Ridley. So that was probably one of the more shocking things that happened in free agency in the offseason. But, Trent didn't sit around twiddling his thumbs there either, as Matt Hamilton would love for me to tell you. He goes and gets Gabe Davis, one of my faves in free agency, a guy who wants to be a true number one, feels like he has a lot to prove, feels like a lot was left on the field last year. And it was, if you really look at some of the game film from last year, just trust me on that. Gabe Davis is hungry to be this guy. Trent went out and got LSU receiver Brian Thomas in the first round. There's talent here, guys. Evan Engram, he had a 114 catch season. He was like this low-hanging New York Giants pinata that never worked out. 114 catch season last year. Christian Kirk had career highs, even though he missed games in yards per game. He was on fire. Balky upgraded the O-line. You got to try to keep Trevor healthy as you can keep him. You can't put it all on the O-line because Trevor's out there like playing the way that he plays. But they got Mitch Morse, stole him from the Bills. You love to see it. Is it enough to unlock the potential Peterson's talking about? I don't know. They need Brian Thomas Jr. He's probably the key here. Is he going to be, the proverbial Big Lebowski rug that ties the room together? Is he the guy? Press Taylor. I remember we were in London last year. They were going to take on the Titans, and it was give the ball to, what are we doing here? Was Press Taylor the guy? Can he light it up? And we don't want that to come under question again. But you'd think that they're going to be right in it to snatch that AFC crown back from Houston. It'll be actually really fun to see how those two duke it out at the top. Okay, Colts. I think, it's a question everyone has, because you got a little taste of what he can do last year. And it is, why are we sleeping on Anthony Richardson? It's not how good can he be. It's why don't we get it collectively? I have Darius Butler on my show. He's in Indy, close to McAfee. They're all right there. And we always, every week, I feel like Darius and I hash and rehash. Why are we sleeping on Anthony Richardson? The highlights we got last year were insane. We collectively forget. We only saw him start and finish 2 games. I know that. And that's why we forget, right? He missed almost the entire year. Jonathan Taylor missed half the season with injuries. There's a contract situation. That was never fun. But the Colts were a game and really just a play away from making the playoffs, okay? It speaks volume of the talent on the roster, that really one of the most badass, like to the point, doesn't give an F GMs I know, Chris Ballard, has assembled, and the unheralded coaching of Shane Steichen. Now, if you take that and you throw a season of Jonathan Taylor into the mix where he's healthy, and the respectfully alien skill set that Richardson has, there's not a team. I guess that's the question. I'm going to redo my question. Is there a more slept on team than the Colts this year? I don't think so. I think they're more slept on. The Chargers are getting so much hype. You look at other teams that are unheralded. The Falcons, super hyped. It's got to be the Colts for me. It's not the Bears, certainly. So couple injuries. They got it though. It doesn't sound like this shoulder thing with Anthony, which I guess would be a concern here. It hasn't held him back in OTAs. Has anybody heard that? I haven't. Steichen was actually asked if Richardson had any rust so far.
I think with any player, you have a little rust every once in a while, but he's been pretty smooth out there so far. Completing a lot of balls, completion percentage has been good, knowing where to go with the football, which is a good sign. But I like where he's at right now, big time.
Okay, my question then, it's the third iteration of the question. The unanswered question is, why are we sleeping on him? I guess, can he stay healthy as a baby one? Fine. But we don't know that. If he can stay on the field, is he the biggest wild card in the NFL right now, in the entire league right now? No one's talking about him. Just watch and pay attention when the season comes. Okay, last one before we hit break. Jimmy Palmtrees. By the way, Richard, tell Jimmy Palmtrees, like, you think I'd get a text from my boy? You think he'd say, like, yo, 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 coming on the show, gave him the retweet, said Jimmy Palmtrees? Nothing. Just nada, nunca. Doesn't, I guess he's saving it all for air, I guess. But not, Jimmy, nothing? Okay, let's get into the Titans, a team he knows really, really well. James Palmer, the perfect guest to have on a day like today. But my question for the Tennessee Titans, the unanswered one, is can we just get it together with the O-line? Like, how hard can it be? Let's do this. Will Levis. I love Will Levis. Will Levis and I had a rough relationship when we started. He stood me up. It wasn't great. Then I played ping pong with him. He came on the show. I saw him at the Derby, at the Sports Illustrated party. He couldn't be cooler, couldn't be nicer. Aaron Rodgers is ignoring me. You got Will Levis like being so kind and wonderful. Like, I'm a Will Levis supporter now, but you cannot expect anything from him if you cannot protect him. And they were a mess up front last year. Look at this. The Titans allowed the second highest sack rate in the NFL. Their quarterbacks pressured on over a third of their dropbacks, and they made it tough on Derrick Henry. That's hard to do, okay? Second worst yards before contact of any team in the league. I blame Taylor Lewan, friend of the show, for retiring. You heard Delanie Walker, Titans legend great, say, I'm all in on Will Levis this year. I heard that and said, me too, if they can protect him. Whispers. Asterisks. Like, their GM went in on fixing it this season. Is it enough? How does it shake out? They draft CJ Latham out of Alabama a year after taking guard Pete Skoronski in the first. They also sign Lloyd Cushenberry away from Denver. New head coach Brian Callahan might be the biggest get of all. He adds his pops, Bill Callahan, as the offensive line coach. So Bill, remember the sled Bertha that you were watching Latham push? Okay, he invented that, but he also turned every O-line he's ever coached into gold, okay? So for the Browns the past few years, the Cowboys lines that made, here's a throwback to Marco Murray, a big star, to the group that helped the Jets reach back-to-back AFC title games. That is Callahan. He is an offensive line. I'm not going to, do I give the Skarnecchia sort of vibe to it? I don't know about that, but he's an offensive line genius in his own right. And if he and this line can just give me some time, for Will Levis to find these sexy acquisitions like D-Hop and Calvin Ridley downfield, who they took away from their division rival. I love it. This offense will be explosive. And as Delanie Walker puts it, we will see Mr. Mayonnaise do some things in year 2. Okay.